Hey, what's going on, people? What's going on? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Oh man, I have to say one thing, dude. It's comedy to hear certain people be hypocrites on here. Okay, it really is, and they're the relentless approach of showing a double standard is really beyond me. Okay, now let me tell you something. You got a guy on here who not too long ago criticized me in the Boxing Librarian for bringing up history whenever we want to when we have our debates or discussions just to prove a point, right? Just to make a point valid. He doesn't like that, so he dubs that. He came up with his own terminology. What does he call it? Historyonomics, whatever you want to call it. I think that's what he calls it, right? So and he knows what I'm referring to. The bitch in Taiwan, right? Who made a video, attacking me again, So I don't understand what's his problem is, okay? Because it seems to me that he he just can't help but to stop, but police people's channels. I mean, that's his thing. He's not gonna stop doing it, okay? We all know what he's about, all right? And there's certain things I let slide for a long time, but this time I got to go back at him, all right? So again, he was in that video drinking as always, the alcoholic that he is. Can't help himself but stop drinking because the more he drinks, the brain cells are depleting, as I've stated before, and it's getting further to that point, probably getting worse, and based off his condition. So, and I'll point to certain things he said, which is so stupid, which proves my point that his brain cells are depleting due to his alcoholism. All right, hey, what's going on, Joe Host, man? What's happening? What's happening, man? Yeah, I'm just up, man. I just got finished watching the Jesse Hart and the Gilberto Ramirez fight at super middleweight for the WBO super middleweight title. It was a very good fight, man. Very good fight, close fight. Not with the exception of the knockdown and the second round and the fourth round, I believe, where Ramirez was dominating Jesse Hart. So those are like the two rounds that really gave Ramirez a fight. So in my opinion, so if Jesse Hart, if it weren't for those two rounds, then Jesse Hart could have perhaps pulled it out, or it could have been a lot closer. But it was still a good fight either way. But Gilberto Ramirez is definitely the rightful winner there. But it's definitely a good fight, man. But anyways, I'm addressing this clown over here in Taiwan, all right? Because he said a lot of things that are so fucking stupid, as usual. Say the most outlandish things I ever heard. All right, getting back to this historyonomics thing that he doesn't like to bring up, because one of his previous videos, he said that Gennady Golovkin, he's been very relentless going after guys who dare to criticize Golovkin in a very constructive manner. When we bring up the fact that Golovkin has very poor defense, or his limitations by that matter, where his defense is extremely poor, he gets hit all the goddamn time, and he relies too much on his chin, where it becomes very detrimental in his career. The fact that Hatman pointed out perfectly that Golovkin may not last long due to his style of fighting. The fact that he's been going after people who dare to criticize him in a constructive manner like that. He's been doing that the last few days after the Canelo Alvarez fight had concluded, right? So, anyhow, this dude in that video, not this video that he was, that he attacked me, but in this video, he said that Golovkin is a better fighter than Tony Zale. Tony Zale. He said that Golovkin is a better fighter than Tony Zale. Now, if you want to talk about technical ability, you can say Golovkin is advanced because he's fought in an era where technical skills has been advanced compared to the era that Tony Zale has fought. But as far as greatness, I hope he didn't mean by greatness. If he meant by greatness, that is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay? Tony Zale was a long-reigning middleweight champion for 7 years, a lineal champion, by the way, something that Golovkin has yet to achieve. All right? Tony Zale beat names that was far, far greater than Golovkin's ever beaten. All right? Has Golovkin got a Rocky Graziano on his resume? No. Has Golovkin get a Billy Zeus on his resume? No. Does he have Billy Cohn on his resume? No. Does he have a Georgie Abrams on his resume? Hell no. Does he have an Al Allstack on his resume? No, he doesn't. Does he have a Billy Zeus on his resume? No, he does not. So how the fuck could he sit there and say that Tony's Golovkin is better than Tony Zale? If he meant by greatness, that is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay? Golovkin hasn't even come close to what Tony Zale has done. Not even close. Even though Tony Zale has been criticized, he has been criticized for his level of opposition that he fought for most part. Well, not the level of his opposition. I'm sorry. He's been criticized for not fighting guys like Robinson, Ezra Charles, you know, who actively pursued that fight for years at middleweight, and the Homer Williams and the Tony Zells and the Burt Lydells and Lauren Marshalls. Yeah, he got criticized for not fighting those guys. But at the end of the day, he did have some very good, you know, has some very good fighters on his resume, Hall of Famers, very good champions on his resume. All right. That is the most dumbest thing I've ever heard. All right, to say that that Gennady Golovkin is a better fighter, greater fighter than fucking Tony Zell, if that's what he meant. All right, that's the most dumbest thing I've ever heard. Number one. And speaking of history, right? He also commented when I mentioned that back then, you know, back in the 1900s, fighters had to fight in a style which is very generalized to the public, where the public was were more bloodthirsty for a good fight back then. Okay, he said that that's something that's very, you know, outlandish to be said by me, because back then there was a different style of fighting. No, you dumb fuck. First of all, you do understand back then when fighters fought, they fought in pretty much in a very generalized style. Okay, so going to, you know, further elaborate my point. When crowds back then, they were so bloodthirsty that they wanted their money's worth to get a good fight. If a fighter couldn't provide that, either A, they don't get paid, two, they get disqualified for not putting up a good fight. Like many fighters have been disqualified under the referee's discretion for no reason whatsoever. But that's one of the reasons why, which is kind of stupid. So the term "the style makes fights" was not developed until the 1940s, when Robinson and Robinson, what's his other, Ezra Charles, Homer Williams, Archie Moore, Burt Lydells, many of those guys, when those guys started to come up, you know, when they started to enter the boxing arena, that's when different styles start to develop. That's the term where styles make fights was the terminology was dubbed back then. Okay, not in the 1900s, you stupid fuck. Even though there were some exceptions, I will say that. I should have mentioned that in my previous video. What up, Mr. Doc? Yeah, Mr. Doc. Yeah, man, I'm talking about this dude. You on those musician hours? Yeah, man, I hear you. I hear you, man. I'm going after this YTBC cop, man, because he's saying some stupid shit. First of all, Jack Johnson. You said that John Johnson had a very different style of fighting compared to those guys that he fought in the 1900s. Okay, I'll say this. When Jack Johnson fought in his first few fights, right? He didn't have any ability whatsoever, right? He fought in a very, very. Hey, what up, blood? What up, brother? What up, man? I'm going at this guy now and say he now thinks he's a boxing historian, even though he doesn't like to talk about history. All right, man. Let me send you a link. Let me send you a link, Mr. Doc. Hold on. So Jack Johnson, okay, when he fought Jim Chomsky, right? They fought in Texas in the night. I think it was 1904. Right? I think that was the year. I think when Jim Chomsky knocked out Jack Johnson, they were both arrested. Why they were arrested? Because they fought in a state where prize fighting was illegal back then. Texas did not legalize prize fighting. So they both went to jail. And during that time when they were both incarcerated together, Jim Chomsky took Jack Johnson under his wing. He taught him the fundamentals of fighting, taught him fundamentals of a jab, taught him the fundamentals of using, you know, of circling around the ring, using his footwork, taught him to use his reach, use his jab, to use his height. You know, pretty much what Jim Chomsky did is that he tapped into Jack Johnson's natural ability. Jim Chomsky once said that the reason why I took Jack Johnson under my wing while we were incarcerated because I saw some natural ability in him. And you have to just now, Jack Johnson wouldn't have been the fighter that he was if it wasn't for Jim Chomsky, who taught him these things, who taught him the, you know, the proper way to defend yourself when you're in a clinch. Okay, so you could say Jack Johnson had some bit of a different style where he was able to use his reach and keep people at the end of his jab. Joe Gans, the old master. Joe Gans was dubbed the guy. You could say he was the innovator of having a pistol, of using the jab to your best weapon, and then follow on with Larry Holmes and so forth. All right. So when Joe Gans, he showed the ability where you can be an effective counter puncher rather than being an aggressor, because he had a very quick counter punching ability, and he had very good footwork. So there were some exceptions back then, but from a stylistic standpoint, all the fighters back then fought in a very generalizing style. That's another thing. Hey, what's up, Mr. Doc?
Hey, what's going on, Dan? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, man. I can hear you fine.
Cool.
Yeah, this dude literally trying to be an historian, yet he's trying, you know, I'm going after every point that he says here. He went after Andre Ward again, right? So another thing is that he's saying this is the one comment that really got to me. He said that Gennady Golovkin is better than Tony Zell.
Whoa.
Yes, that's what he said. That's what he said.
Oh man, no. We probably Tony Zale.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said.
I don't even have to go back 10 fucking years to find a better middleweight. And Golovkin's one of my dudes. Okay? I mean, you know that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just like I don't understand. I don't understand why. He keeps claiming that I know Gennady Golovkin doesn't have a great resume. I'm not trying to put him up against all-time greats, but yet this is what he's doing right now. We could go all the way back a year ago. He went through Hagler and Hopkins' resume. He went after each opponent that they fought and trashed them. Okay, but when the librarian myself does it to Golovkin, he calls it hate. And when a librarian called him out for debate on it, he refuses to debate on it. Okay, he said, "Well, I don't want to talk about history. I want to talk about modern times." Well, that's bullshit. First of all, you're talking about history when you're going after all the other past middleweights' resumes and their opponents just to propagate Golovkin.
Yeah,
That's something he doesn't understand.
What's with this trend I'm hearing of this guy suddenly becoming going from the anti-historian to like Mr. Historian, thinking he knows about Ernie Shavers, and apparently now he
Yeah,
knows about Tony's.
motherfucker also said that Tony Zell. There's another thing he said too. He also said that Tony Zell fought Sugar Ray Robinson. Fucking stupid fuck. They never fought, you idiot.
And I don't even know. I don't even pretend to know. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
far back that well, but Jesus.
right. It's like this dude thinks he knows about Tony Zell. But get the fuck out of here, all right? The only thing about Tony Zell we can all agree is that he didn't fight the Black Murderers Row members or the other champions like Ezra Charles, Sugar Ray Robinson. Obviously, he didn't fight Charlie Burley or Holman Williams. He didn't fight none of those guys. That's the one you can say that's one of the black marks that he has on his resume, Tony Zell. Okay, but other than that, he does have the Hall of Famers of Billy Zeus. He has Billy Cohn. He does have Fred Starpali. He has those guys and Rocky Graziano. Those names alone are far better than any of the fighters that Golovkin's beat. Billy Cohn. You can't tell me that he doesn't know who Billy Cohn is or Billy Zeus. Okay? This is just madness what this guy's talking about. Georgie Abrams? Come on, dude. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but meanwhile, right? Meanwhile, I've been told persistently, like for years now, right, by all these, well, not all, but most of the other Golovkin fans, that not only is the Lara fight a bad idea, but there's something wrong with me for wanting to see it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, this is stupid.
And Lars, one of my dudes too, and I can't really defend his recent, choice of opponents. But I have to say, that version of Golovkin, even though I thought he won against Canelo, I thought he won, but it was iffy, right? I'm not mad at people that Canelo won, whatever. But that version of Golovkin, I right now I've always thought it was close, but I now favor Lara.
Exactly. Here's the thing about it. Golovkin has fought some good opponents, right? I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to discredit him fully. But the fact is, we can all agree that his best opposition that he fought to this point was Canelo Alvarez. He didn't win that fight. And he didn't look quite great in that fight. We all agreed to that point. So for him to sit there and say that that Golovkin is better than Tony Zell, he's really, I don't know why we even having this conversation about this, number one. And number two, this guy in his comment section said that Frankenstein, he said that why are we talking about boxers who are dead? Man, get the fuck off my damn hangout if you don't want to hear what we got to say, man. I don't want to be, I'm getting riled up.
That's like some low place shit,
That is.
It's probably some bringing up history, like the librarian pointed out, it's called precedent. Examples. Right. It's just like the reason I always bring up, the James Tony Evander Holyfield thing constantly is because constantly I get told, oh, it's just unfair and unrealistic to, compare Golovkin to Mickey Walker fighting Max Schmeling, for example, because when they come at me with this crazy shit, right, about Golovkin's the best middleweight ever, I'd go, look. You know what? I may not know who is for sure the best middleweight ever, right? But I know Mickey Walker isn't, and Golovkin's not as good as friggin' Mickey Walker. Sorry.
Not even close. Not even close. Not
you
even
see
close.
What I mean? So we don't. So you know what I mean? And I've told them, don't even until you can give me a good reason to have a discussion about him versus Mickey Walker. Don't even start with Hagler, Monzon, etc.
Right. You don't even do that. It's funny though, because he mentioned that he says that it's unfair that we comparing when we bring up past fighters, we're comparing errors. It's not fair to do that.
Okay. So hang on. Before I forget my point, I was going for there. So one of the things they'll say is like, oh, that was just, that was back then. They don't do crazy crap like that anymore, like Mickey Walker fighting Schmeling. And I'm like, no. James Toney. James Toney, I'm sorry, that's a modern fighter. Went up to heavyweight, started at middleweight, and didn't just beat Evander Holyfield. He beat him up and stopped him.
Yeah, that was probably the worst beating I've seen Evander Holyfield take. The worst beating.
Wow, I never thought about that, Dan. That's a good fucking point. Think about that. Yeah, the worst beating. Yeah. That's arguably the worst beating Evander took. Out of all those heavyweights and cruiserweights and light heavyweights he fought.
Right, and he had tough fights, but they didn't beat him as bad as Tony did. You know what I'm saying?
And the point of that is Tony is a precedent, proof that there's no excuse. It can be done. It's like I was just talking to someone in Coach's Hangouts comment section about the Rigondeaux fight. I brought it up for that. Right. I'm like, look. He's moving up 8 pounds. Maybe he's not good enough. We're going to find out. Yeah. But to say that it's categorically impossible is just absurd.
Right, exactly. Rayshawn Hunt said, what's going on, Rayshawn? He said that Shane Tony was on PEDs. Well, he was on PEDs after the John Ruiz fight, but he wasn't tested positive for PEDs after the Holyfield fight. So, since that didn't happen, we got to give him credit for Holyfield. As far as Ruiz, that's a different story, man. Frankenstein, he's talking about, well, I'm just asking why are we talking about dead fighters? We should be talking about Zordo Ramirez. I just talk about that fight, man. I mean, if you don't want to hear about historical stuff, then this is not the channel for you, bro. We'll get to the Zordo fight in a minute, and Ramirez fight I just brought up a second ago. I just got to address somebody real quickly, because he's being a hypocrite here. Number one, he's going after Andre Ward. He's saying that Andre Ward, he's slamming Andre Ward for the fact that he didn't fight outside the U.S. during the Super 6, right? He's slamming him for that. I was like, okay, well, first of all, Joe Kawasaki fought 90% of his career in the UK. But he doesn't criticize Kawasaki for that, but he praises him. So why the double standard?
And the UK is the size, you know what I mean, or smaller of like most of one of, you know what I mean, most of our states. There's probably like what would you say, 20 at most that are smaller than the UK?
Yeah, about 20 the most, man. But, it's just all this stuff. And, hey, 68 is in here. He said, right out the pedophilia and the beastly from Boxing Talk, like the Torte, do them weed smoke. This dude. And 68, man, be having some subliminal, some unique subliminal messages. Yeah.
I like 68. He's cool, man. He's cool.
Yeah. Right. He is cool. And the fact that he also said that, I'm going through these points that he said, and I want you to get your take on it. He also said that Ward had no choice but to fight in the Super 6 to make a name for himself. Well, I have to disagree with that because every fighter has a choice. Like,
yeah. What do we mean by? You see, that's one of those. I always say English is a trade language, right?
Right. It's just stupid stuff because.
Well, what I mean is, it has a lot of utility. English does for you know what I mean, being used between a multitude of people that have other languages as their primary language, so they can do business. But when we start talking things like this, right? There's 100 different things that turn of phrase right there could mean. we have to like stop and go, okay, what do we mean by that even in this case?
Right. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, man. I see what you're saying on this, but the thing is, I mean, Frankenstein, dude. You got to be a troll account. You got to be Sean Newton or something, because first of all, the Super Six was not tailor made for Andre Ward. He's calling him Andre Fraud. Andre Ward was an underdog going to that Super Six, man. I don't want to call you stupid, but you're talking stupid right now. Okay. The fact is that he's criticizing. He's saying that Ward had no choice to get into the Super Six. Well, every fighter has a choice.
What do we have? What do we mean? That's what I'm saying. What does he mean? What does he even mean by no choice? No choice. There was, a threat on his life. No choice. In the abstract sense of, his future legacy. No choice because he needed the money. What are we saying here?
I don't know what he's talking about, man. He doesn't elaborate his points very well. All right, but I will say this though: Lucia Boutte had a choice. He had a choice, okay?
Yeah,
he was invited to go to.
He made that, but he was on that Michael Spinks bullshit, man.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, exactly.
He wanted to skip to the end of the tournament like Michael Spinks did with Tyson.
Exactly, and I got after Boutte for that shit. This dude literally declined the Super Six. He didn't want to go in there. By not doing that, he ducked Ward, he ducked Froch at that time, he ducked Kessler, he ducked Abraham, he ducked Taylor, Durrell, and Green. He ducked those guys.
Yeah, I think you're going to say it. I honestly think he was, fitting to lay in the weeds and then try to pick off whoever won it.
Right. And wait, Frankenstein says here, look, fraud. That's Boutte must build his brand. Okay, so you're giving Boutte a pass for ducking the Super Six because he was building his brand. Why can he build his brand? No, this is stupid talk. It's really stupid. First of all, Boutte could have built his brand.
Exactly. What would have built his brand more than participation in the Super Six? Sorry.
Right.
What could he have? What did Boutte do that raised his profile more than the Super Six? I'm trying to keep.
Well, anything what happened to Boutte? Anything what happened to Boutte is that he tried to do the Michael Spinks approach, like you just said, Mr. Doc. He wanted to fight whoever's going to be banged up after the Super Six because he knew whoever the winner was going to be damaged goods to some degree because they went through the gauntlet. He feels that whoever the winner was going to be pretty shot. Okay, that's why Ward was like, "Nah, you gotta prove you gotta fight somebody before you fight me." Okay, you can't sit there and take a fight with me when you had a chance to fight me in the Super Six. I'm not condoning what he said, but I can see it from another perspective, and I wish Ward would have fought him. But the fact is, I can understand what Ward was coming from when it comes to the Lucia Boutte situation. Boutte should have took his ass to the Super Six, but he didn't do it. So he's not getting a pass for that. And due to that, yes, he tried to prove everybody wrong by going into Carl Froch's backyard and got his ass whooped. And look what happened to Boutte. He never recovered.
He got the same karma Michael Spinks got.
Exactly. But Michael Spinks was smart enough to retire after that loss. Boutte didn't retire, and look what happened. Okay. I'm not giving Ward a pass.
Now it's in hindsight, it probably had something to do with, as some people put it, Mexican supplements. But Boutte did actually kind of have. He did. I have to concede to him. You know what I mean? He did have a bit of a comeback later. That these, I'd say last 3 or 4 fights before he got popped after the Badu Jack fight.
Well, he's got some wins, but they were not marketable wins. They were not marquee wins.
No. I don't even mean in terms of winning. I just mean, you know what I mean? He didn't get done like he did when he fought Froch. He hung in there with like DeGale. He hung in there with Jack. You know what I mean? Gave him tough fights.
Yeah. You got to give him credit for that. But the thing is, he didn't win those fights.
No. I'm just saying. Usually, when a fighter gets smashed, like he did against Froch, they don't. You know what I mean? They don't regain that kind of a form.
That's true. George Groves at one point was on a slide after the Carl Froch fight. So, but he did. He was able to rebound. It took him a long time to do it. But anyhow, so he's going after Ward. He's claiming that Ward didn't clean out his division because he didn't fight Boutte. Okay, he's being a hypocrite about that as well because Vladimir Klitschko didn't fight Kirk Johnson. He didn't fight David Tua. He didn't fight Calvin Brock when he was doing his early run as a heavyweight champion of the world. So when he didn't fight those guys, and later in the years, he did fight Deontay Wilder, Bermane Stiverne, Joseph Parker, and all the other guys, right? So that means to his standard, Vladimir Klitschko did not clean out his division. Although he says that Vladimir Klitschko did clean out the division. And I came at him with that and said, well, you're being a hypocrite, because if you're going to say that Ward didn't do it, then you got to say the same for Klitschko, because he didn't fight neither one of these guys while he was reigning as the heavyweight champion of the world. So you see where I'm going with this right here, man? It's just like I got to point out the hypocrisies here in this video. You can't say that Ward didn't clean out his division, but then turn around and says that Klitschko did it. And Kawasaki did it. Kawasaki didn't fight Spanaki and Carl Froch during his run as super middleweight. So by that standard, Kawasaki did not clean out his division either.
So, exactly. It's once again we're in a situation of having to basically ask ourselves, what do we mean by quote unquote cleaning out the division? For example, as I like to point out, Burt Randolph Sugar, he contended that Ali cleaned out the heavyweight division 3 times.
No, he did twice.
Once his contention was he cleaned out a set of fighters in his first career. He cleaned out a set of fighters between between the first Quarry fight and Foreman, and then a third set of fighters. To his view, that was his argument.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. But the thing is that when you clean out a division, there are going to be 1 or 2 guys that you're not going to fight. That's going to happen.
That's where I was going. I was going to say, you know what I mean? I could sit here easily and probably name off half a dozen, heavyweights. Yeah, Ali didn't fight. You couldn't fight them all. Nobody can fight them all.
Right, exactly. You can't. I mean, Muhammad, like I said, it's like not every fighter who we give credit for clearing out the division didn't fight everybody. I mean, there's 1 or 2 guys that didn't fight. Klitschko, Ward, Kawasaki is definitely an example of that. Tyson is too. He's an example of that. We give Tyson credit for cleaning out the division in the 80s, right? But he didn't fight George Foreman. People wanted to see that fight.
Ali didn't fight Eddie Mission, for example. A lot of people bring that up in his first career, but nobody argues with him being, what I mean? Yep, basically cleaning out the division in his first career.
Right. I mean, Tyson didn't fight Holyfield at that time, and he didn't fight Foreman. So, to the YTBC cop standard, the guy in Taiwan, Tyson didn't clean out his division. So I'm just saying, you can't.
Yeah, that's why they have. That's why they had things like this instilled. Well, why they do them now may be different, but the whole idea of eliminators, okay? Like Roy Tiger Williams Shavers fought eliminators with Roy Tiger Williams and Howard Smith because Ali couldn't fight them all.
Right. So, the guy just, it's like he wants to give somebody credit for something like Klitschko, but he refused to give Ward credit for the same thing that Ward did that Klitschko did. He refuses to do it, right? And speaking of, I'm going to go to the comment section before I get to the other point that I wanted to debunk. Let me see. Rashawn Hudson said that Froch can punch. I mean, yeah, he definitely can punch. They had a granite chin. Froch had a bit of boxing ability, but of course, Carl Froch got hit too much in his career, but he got out just in time. So, Yardy Boxing Talk, he said, Ward does not need anyone to validate his career or his resume. He first did it all in the ring. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't let these trolls get to you, bro. Talking about me. Hey, you know what, man? I hear you, dude. Yardy, I understand, man. But it's like sometimes you can only take so much, man. And sometimes you try to let things slide, but I got to respond to hit the hypocrisy here, especially if somebody's trying to attack me in their video. Frankenstein. I mean, I don't know, man. You're making one of the most idiotic comments I've seen. Let me see. The Klitschko's held down the division. Yeah, the Klitschko brothers did it. But the fact is, Vladimir was the recognized champion. He had all 3 belts. But, since I want to get into that, he attacks Ward for the fact that we have every right to criticize Ward because he didn't do what we wanted him to do. He didn't become undisputed champion. Really? Then why did you hold Vladimir Klitschko to that standard when he had a chance to become undisputed champion? He didn't fight his brother. He didn't fight Wilder or Stiverne when they had the title. So
I was just going to say, his brother wasn't there the whole time, though. His brother retired before Vlad's career was over. So what was the excuse then?
Right. So that's why, it's stupid talk for him to say that, well, we can criticize Ward because he didn't do what we wanted him to do. He had a boring style of fighting. Really? If he had a boring style of fighting, then why the hell did you watch his fights? Why did you watch his fight?
This boring style stuff.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Spare me.
Yeah,
My
Jesus
goodness.
Christ. I'm just this dude, man. I swear, I'm just going through every point that he said about me in the video. But let me see what else. I'm gonna go to the comment section too, right? He says that Frankenstein's like, man, dude, like Joe Hosta said, dude, you tripping, man. Something's wrong with you, man. And you already saying the same thing. You already boxing talk, man. He said that Andre Ward fraud. He calls him Andre fraud. Was never undisputed. Yeah, you dumb fuck. I know he wasn't undisputed. We never said he was undisputed. All right. So why are you going to hold that against Ward? Because he never became undisputed champion. There's been many great fighters who never became undisputed champion. Manny Pacquiao was never an undisputed champion. Better yet, Manny Pacquiao was never a unified champion. He never won a unified bout. So if you're going to hold that against Andre Ward, and same thing goes for that dude over in Taiwan. If you're going to hold that against Ward, you got to do that for Pacquiao. You got to do that for Klitschko. You got to do that for Golovkin too, because he's not an undisputed champion at this point. Lomachenko. You got to hold those standards for those guys. So don't sit there and have a double standard when it comes to Ward. All right?
Yeah.
So,
and what we're talking here is really credible opposition. And yeah, Vlad fought a lot of credible opposition.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's just crazy talk, man. I mean, let me see. Let me go to the...
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, man. No, I was going to say, I was going to the comment section here real quickly.
I'll just make my point real quick. I do have, for instance, everybody talks about criticisms of Wilder, for example, right? Do I have a criticism of Wilder? Sure, but guess what? That criticism applies to pretty much the entire division. They all want to fight Kirsten Manswell and, Liakovic and Brian Pauly and all pass these, these second and third tier guys around and not fight each other.
Right, exactly.
And, who has the most credible names, in my opinion? I'm not saying wins, but credible names he's fought in the last 10 years at heavyweight? Friggin' Derek Chisora. Especially now that Vlad's retired. I mean, you know what I mean? What the hell? Well, how does that happen? And it's not even close. He's got, even Anthony Joshua, he's got, you know what I mean? You can take him and Wilder's credible names and combine them. And Chisora's still got more.
Right. That's true. Chisora actually fought a lot of top heavyweights.
Fought Fury twice. Fought Vitali. I mean, I know him.
Pulev.
I gotta see.
Yeah, he fought Pulev. He fought Delia White. Yeah. What's up? What's it, Doc? What'd you say?
I was just gonna say I got that spreadsheet me and librarian we're talking about. I'll just pull it up so I don't have to sit here shoot in the dark.
It's all good, man.
We were breaking down, the difference in activity and the difference in the amount of credible opposition, between the last 10 years versus 70. So let's see here. Chisora, where the hell are you?
No problem. Yeah, why are you doing that, man? I'm going to go to the comment section real quick. Yeah, so Great Drake, shout out to Great Drake. He said that, look, boxers can't fight everyone. There will always be one or two people they should have fought. Absolutely. Absolutely. Even the fighters that we give credit for cleaning out divisions, like I named. I named Tyson, Ward, Kawasaki, Klitschko, who else? Ali, Robinson. Oh, actually, Robinson practically did at welterweight. But other than that, yeah. So there's going to be one or two fighters that they should have fought, but they didn't happen. But we still give those fighters credit for cleaning out the division. So, again, it goes back to my point. If you're going to say that Ward didn't clean out the division, but yet you give Klitschko credit for cleaning out his division, even though he didn't fight the fighters that I just named during his early run as a champion, then his later runs as a champion, then you got to apply that same standard. Just be consistent. Great Drake said that Tua versus Tyson would have been awesome. Yeah, you know what, man? That would have been a damn good fight. I wanted to see that fight too, but of course it was unfortunate we didn't get to see that happen.
That would have been brutal. That would have been some brutal stuff.
Absolutely. What else here?
Okay.
Rashawn.
Go ahead.
Rashawn, I was going to say Rashawn said who else was undisputed? Well, Terrence Crawford became undisputed champion a month ago when he beat Julius Anango for the 2 titles. But then he got either he vacated his IBF title or he got stripped. But it was kind of shady how that happened because the IBF had ordered him to fight Sergey Lipinets, who was the mandatory challenger. And then within a week, I think a week after they ordered the fight, a purse bid was called, meaning that Crawford had no choice. He couldn't negotiate the terms. So basically, they had to go to a purse bid, which means that his promoter had to, or the two promoters or outside parties could bid for the fight. So whoever the winner was gets to dictate the terms. Of course, Crawford didn't have time to do it. They called a purse bid, knowing that he was not going to engage into a purse bid because obviously
Arabs, because Arab's not going to relinquish anything.
Right, especially Sergey Lipinets is backed by Al Heyman, so that was another complicated situation. So that's why he was either people say he vacated his title. Okay, so be it. You could also say he was pretty much a virgin being stripped anyway. So that's what happened. Let me see what else we got here. Ray Drake said, "Look, let me see. Frankenstein, man, you gotta be low place, man." He said, "Here, look."
Hey, he won. You know what? I almost said that earlier, and I'm like, yeah, no, surely he hasn't gotten another one, right?
Yeah, this gotta be low place. First of all, he's like, no, he didn't want that undisputed heat, man. He has nightmares that supersede sleeping him. I mean, that's gotta be low place because I don't understand the fuck you just said right there, man.
I mean, in text, it sounded like he almost said Superman Stevenson curse, and he corrected himself.
Yeah, exactly.
So
let me see. Great Drake say, look.
Okay.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I thought you were done.
Go ahead.
So check this out. This is the thing with the heavyweight division right now. All the dudes, especially now that Vlad's retired, all the dudes that, in my opinion, have, again, we're just talking opposition, not wins and losses. The ones with the most, credible opposition are guys like Thomas Adamek. 19 fights in the last 10 years. Gallardo, Ariola, Michael Grant, but it's a name. Kevin McBride, it's a name. Vitaly, Eddie Chambers, Steve Cunningham, Tsar Glaskov, Spilka, Molina.
Right.
Meanwhile, we know what guys like AJ and Wilder and even Ortiz, none of them have done shit. Exactly. Same with Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker's on 2 or 3 names on here. Andy Ruiz Jr. is on 2 names on here, and then we go to Derek Chisora, you got Sam Sexton twice, bottom of the barrel. You got Tyson Fury, Robert Helenius, Vitaly, David Hay, Malik Scott, Kevin Johnson, Fury again, Pulev, and Dillian White.
Yeah, man, he got a lot of names, but he's fought a lot of names, but he hasn't beat most of those names, and that's the same thing that Joe Host was saying. But it's like,
but the point, if you look at when I go over here to look at the 70s heavyweights, right? Guys like here we go, Ron Stander, right? 50 fights during the decade, but when it comes in terms of just credible opposition, the guys like Ron Stander and Jose Manuel Ortain and guys like that, they're not the ones with, the big stacks. It's the guys like Foreman, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, Ron Lyle, It's the top guys with the big list of credible opposition.
That's true. Absolutely. That's a very good point.
So, what I mean? I can be accused. Not even accused. I'll admit it. Yes. Am I critical of Wilder? Sure. I'm critical of every modern heavyweight, especially the top guys right now, because they're fighting. They're just not. They're not fighting anybody. They're letting all the, journeymen are doing all the heavy lifting.
Absolutely.
I mean, Sarah, what's up with that? And there's some funnies. I mean, even the ones that don't have a lot of fights. Franz Botha, I think, if I remember right, it's a funny one. Or here's one, Antonio Tarver, right?
Right.
I mean, he's only fought 4 times, but out of his 3 credible names I gave him, Jonathan Banks and Steve Cunningham, percentage of credible opposition. You got guys like Franz Botha, that have probably 10 fights or whatever in the last 10 years, just to generalize my point. And they'll have 8 of those fights will be credible opposition.
True.
And then meanwhile, the elite and top guys have got, 30-something fights in the last 10 years, and they've got like 4, 5, 6 names, at best.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It's true. So basically, you argue the fact that there's pretty much no activity in the heavyweight division, which it should be. So it's just like it's either like
And what activity there is, there's just not that much of credible opposition mixing it with each other. Like I said, I go over here and look at like a guy like let's Ken Norton, and the names that, it's like 17 names, they just come easily. Jose Luis Garcia, Henry Clark, Muhammad Ali 3 times, George Foreman. If you want to go include journeyman, Boone Kirkman, who I didn't even know this till I looked into his resume. It was like 30-something and 2 or 30-something and 1 when Foreman fought him. He actually had a really good record. But anyways, Jerry Quarry.
Yeah, I mean,
Larry Middleton, underrated heavyweight.
Ernie Schaefer's, you got to get about Ernie
Jimmy
Schaefer.
Young,
George Zavallo.
Yep.
Yeah. So those guys, man, those are all great. They were very good heavyweights. And I would say their record.
Yeah, Ernie Shavers fought 60 times in the 70s, 6 times a year.
Oh, absolutely.
Ron Standard, Jimmy Young, Jimmy Ellis, Jerry Quarry, Jimmy Young again, Ron Lyle, Henry Clark twice, Roy Tiger Williams, Howard Smith, Ali, Holmes. Both Holmeses were in the 70s. Actually, fights were in the 70s. So I was surprised to find out.
Right.
Ken Norton on top of that.
Absolutely. I mean, most of these guys that fought back then, they were a lot better than what their records would suggest. I can tell you right now, if you agree with me on this, I would say all of them in their prime, in those prime years, will probably smoke all the heavyweights of today, if you ask me.
Or at least they'd tied Ernie Shavers easily be a title holder. He'd be a belt holder.
I think. Oh yeah, today's age, he would be a title holder. People say, well, if Ernie Schaefer was that good, how come he was a champion? Well, duh, there was one guy who was.
Librarian, it was Tim. I couldn't believe somebody said that.
Somebody said that. I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback what the librarian said. Well, the idiot who said that, first of all, you realize there was one champion at that time who had all the belts, Muhammad Ali. You have to go through him. But guess what? Shavers got a shot at Ali. It didn't win. Okay, when Ali left, he had a shot against Larry Holmes. So those guys were not cakewalks. Okay, if you didn't know who Muhammad Ali and Larry Holmes were, then you don't know anything. So don't sit there and talk about that. Well, Ernie Schaefer was not that great because he wasn't a champion. It's no shame losing to Muhammad Ali and Larry Holmes. Let's get that straight. Okay.
Yeah. So and he's got wins over Jimmy Young, Jimmy Ellis, Henry Clark twice, the much avoided, for real, actually avoided, Roy Tiger Williams, Howard Smith, and Ken Norton. Ken Norton Sr. wasn't. That's a fantastic win to have on your resume.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. So let me go back to this comment section here, man. And this gotta be low place, man, because he's saying this guy Frankenstein saying the most stupidest shit I've seen, man. He's speaking like low place. I'm just telling the truth. Troublemaker for telling the truth. Wars, was a fraud. This is low place talking, man. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, dude. So I'm telling you, man. I gotta be completely honest. I'm not gonna go into all of it. Earlier today, I left a group conversation telling him I sincerely think the dude needs. I don't know what's going on in his life or with him, but something is. If you listen to Scorsese 2 years ago, and the way he rambles now, you know what I mean? Something's going on there, and it's gotten to a point that, at least for me anyways, it's just gotten uncomfortable. It's like, dude, you know what I mean?
Right. I hear you, man.
It's just me, but sometimes and it's like I said to someone earlier today, in its own way, it's a horrible thing to watch a person's mind come unhinged.
Right. It's like ever since War, speaking of Hinge, man, ever since War's retired, ever since he's retired, these guys has gone ballistic. First, they said they want him out the sport. Now they're criticizing him when he's out because he didn't fight Adonis Stevenson or he didn't fight this guy or that guy. I'm like, well, God damn it. I thought you guys wanted him out. So
no. They wanted him out on their terms.
Right. That's a good point.
Just like Floyd.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. And the fact is that he went out on top, pound for pound number one, universally universally pound for pound number one. He went out on top, undefeated, was a champion. He fought the best opponents that he could beat, and you can't dispute what he's done. And
Yeah,
yet you
and
got guys like, I was gonna say,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you got this guy in Taiwan having a double standard, trying to nitpick anything he can to discredit Ward, while he won't do it for other fighters like Golovkin and Klitschko. Okay, and another thing I want to bring up is the fact that he keeps saying that Ward didn't deserve to fight Golovkin because Ward didn't bring no money to the table, but yet because Triple G was trying to pursue Froch, Froch, Martinez, Cotto, Chavez Jr., you name it, right? Because those guys were
I love it when these modern boxing fans use that term "deserve."
Yeah, exactly. Because first of all, this is why he's being a hypocrite about that situation. The reason why those guys, he doesn't give them a pass for Duck and Golovkin, okay? The reason why they didn't fight Golovkin, because you know why? Because Golovkin at the time didn't bring no money to the table. He was not a draw that they were looking for. Those guys like Martinez, Froch, were at the end of their careers. They were looking for big money fights. Okay, so if you're not going to give those guys a pass for avoiding Golovkin for financial reasons, but yet you're giving Golovkin a pass for avoiding Ward for financial reasons, you got to give Ward the benefit of the doubt. Okay, you can't sit there and say that, well, I'm going to criticize those guys for avoiding my fighter, but I'm going to give my fighter a pass for avoiding this guy because he didn't bring no money. Allegedly.
No. See, this is what this goes to Tommy Boy, why I've been on him, and I feel a bit smug and exonerated, frankly. All right, like I think you heard me mention on Beats' Hangout the other day, right?
Right.
Try and tell me now, Golovkin fanboys that have argued this point with me. Oh no, Lawler's doing a great job. You're just a hater. Blah blah blah. All right. After we've seen how this all played out with fishnets and the Canelo fight, and not pursuing undisputed, and now being stuck having to be at the end of the puppet strings of fishnets for the foreseeable future. Okay, tell me now who has the better representation, my guy or Canelo? You know what I mean? It's not even it's laughable. He's got a nickel and dime promoter. This is what happens when it's. And I've been saying for the longest, he wasted Golovkin's prime. He wasted Golovkin's prime.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And here's the thing, and I got attacked for criticizing Golovkin's management because everybody called me a hater because they weren't really they did a good job to some degree. I'll give them credit for bringing up Golovkin the way they promoted him, but there were some things they were doing wrong. Okay, how they approached certain fights. When they first made that call out from 154 to 175, that's when they shot themselves in the foot. Okay, because when they did that, Andre Ward, Arizona Delar, and some other fighters had responded to that challenge. When those two guys responded, it was okay to avoid those guys because they brought nothing to the table, right? But when he said 150, but when he said 154, he's meaning he want Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. He wanted to get those guys in the ring. But when I mentioned Manny Pacquiao, the Golovkin fans went ballistic. This guy went ballistic. He called me a liar, the guy in Taiwan, saying that's not true. The Golovkin never called out Pacquiao. Well, actually, he did. It's an interview. He said it on a fucking interview with Fight Hype, you dumb fuck. Okay? This is another double standard. But he won't criticize Golovkin for calling out smaller guys, right? When he criticized Hagler and Hawkins for fighting smaller men, went through the resumes and saying that these guys can't stack up to Golovkin's level because Golovkin didn't fight small men. Bullshit, he did. He fought a load of small guys, come up in weight. But he don't criticize Golovkin for that. He didn't do it. But when Golovkin did a 180, fought Kell Brook, where he chastised Canelo for fighting a small guy because that's a business decision. That's something he would never do, what Golovkin said. He went around and did the same fucking thing. He did
After saying it would be, it was worse, Dan. Golovkin turned around and said that, turned around and did that almost like barely, it seemed like a few days at most after he did an interview where he made a big point about saying Canelo fighting Khan was disrespectful to the sport.
Exactly. Those are the exact words. The interview's up on Power 106. That's the radio station that gave that interview. Exact. Well, Frankenstein, you the stupidest motherfucker. I'm sorry, Frankenstein. Golovkin didn't call out Kell Brook. Okay, yeah, he didn't call out Kell Brook. But you know what Golovkin said? He said he would not fight Kell Brook at one time because Kell Brook was too small. And then he took his ass on the radio station of Power 106 in LA, where I
He said he
live.
wouldn't fight any welterweight because it's disrespectful.
That's what he said. Well, he's lying right there because he tried to fight Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. And it's surprising nobody called him out on it except for me. Why are you lying, Golovkin? Because you did say you wanted those guys in the ring. Okay? And another thing, he went on Power 106.
And what about Tommy Boy? What kind of management, right, has their guys say something like that? And then you know, whether it's the fighter doing it, you know, we'll just pretend for right now, you know, because we don't know. We'll pretend it was Golovkin's idea, right? Let's just do that. Let's just pretend it was Golovkin's idea. You're Golovkin's team. You're Tom Laughlin, right? You just heard him give that interview. You just heard him say that, laying it down. And then he turns around and says to you he wants to fight Kell Brook. What, Dan, you tell me. You tell me, what if you were put in Tommy Boy's shoes, what do you tell Golovkin in that situation?
I mean, look, first of all, to save the ridicule and the backlash after you chastise your rival for doing that, don't take the fight. Okay? Don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna do whatever you can to back him off of that, aren't you? So he doesn't make himself look stupid. That's your job.
Right. That exactly. So when Golovkin does that, the dude over in Taiwan, the cop, went over there and defended that, right? Because when we had a conversation a while back, he was going after Hopkins and Hagler for fighting small guys like Leonard, Hearns, Duran, and Hopkins fought Simon Brown and De La Hoya, right? I told him is that if you knew history, which you don't, middleweights have always fought welterweights.
He knocked out Terry Norris.
Simon Brown knocked out Terry Norris. He was a unified champion at welterweight, a lineal champion, and he was a pound for pound best fighter, one of the best fighters in the world pound for pound at that time. Okay? Simon Brown was a mandatory challenger to Hopkins' title. That's why the fight got made.
Yeah, his thing was he was one of those guys whose power carried up from welterweight.
Right, exactly. So Simon Brown, I'll tell you one thing. Simon Brown was a more valuable opponent than fucking Golovkin fight Dominic Wade and William Monroe. Okay? Yep. And Matthew Macklin. All right? And who else? Norihito Ishida. And who was it? Adama. And Kasiyuma. Oh, yeah, that's right. The guys that he gives Golovkin. Yeah, Proxa, yeah. And Milton Nunez and Nelson Tapia. Get the fuck out of here. And you know what's funny? He has a nerve to say that when Golovkin fought Milton Nunez, I think it was Milton or Nelson Tapia. I think it was one of those two. When Golovkin fought those guys, they were very credible to fight back then when Golovkin fought them. Really? Nelson Tapia, guy's been knocked out, 14 times now after that fight? Who didn't fight nobody before he fought Golovkin? This is a guy who fought 6 guys coming on debuts before he fought Golovkin.
Juan Roldan would beat the shit out of that guy.
Well, Juan Roldan would beat in my opinion, he beat most of the people that Golovkin's fought on his resume. Juan Roldan, okay? Vito Arnold-Farmer would beat the shit out of anybody that Golovkin has fought. Vito Arnold-Farmer would beat him. Benny Briscoe, the guy that he criticized, called him a club fighter and some shit like that. Willie, does he realize that Benny Briscoe actually was a top-rated middleweight for the last 10 years? At his time?
If by club fighter he means the Philly circuit.
Right, that's what he meant.
You'll know this better than you'll know this probably better than I will. But I know I'd have to look up to get the names exact. But I can guarantee you that Philly circuit has produced piles of great fighters, all-time great fighters, champions, etc. That's not that's not a, you know what I mean? When you say club circuit, that presents entirely the wrong context.
Exactly. First of all, Benny Briscoe, let me ask you something. What's a better win? Benny Briscoe beat Eddie Stopper Muhammad or Golovkin beat Dominic Wade and Matthew Macklin?
The two together aren't as good as that one win over Mustafa Muhammad.
Exactly. All right. I'll tell you that Benny Briscoe will beat the crap out of all the guys that Golovkin, all those damn 154-pound guys that Golovkin has fought. It beat. He'll destroy those guys. Okay. And another thing, you know, dude, I'm picking point every single. Let me go back to the comment section here. This dude, this is low place, man. This dude's getting teared up by a great
on it. Great breaks.
Yeah, he's on
I
it.
just clicked over. He's like, "Yep, that's slow play."
Yeah. Let me see. Great Drake. Let me see. Rayshawn said Michael Nell versus Triple G. I'll tell you what, brother. Triple G would get his ass embarrassed by Michael Nell.
Yeah, I've always, I've always leaned towards none. And again, back to my Lara point, that version of Golovkin we last saw against Canelo. Oh my God, he's not like I always say. My favorite Burt Sugar line. He's not finding Michael Nunn with a Geiger counter and radar.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not
he ain't
finding
fighting
him
Michael
with
Nunn.
nothing. He could be solid steak. He could have the Geiger counter, radar, the infrared goggles. He still ain't finding.
All right, let me see. All right, you know what? First of all, Frankenstein, you're not gonna be assaulting Mr. Doc like that. All right, I'm gonna kick your ass off, man. Get off. I'm removing you.
Not quite 70. I don't know. I think 70 is a compliment.
Nah, man, I can't have him. I can't have him disrespecting you like that. All right. You want to sit here and talk about boxing, but you want to hear talk shit, man. All right, low play. I'm gonna kick your ass off. You out.
You dummy. Laughter is life support.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Hold up. Yeah, I gotta block him. I gotta get him off of here. This dude's talking shit. All right. Yeah, Great Drake. I had to kick him off, man.
Yeah. Your chat was gonna end up with blackberry poisoning.
Yeah, exactly, man. Let me see. What is he? Michael Nunn. Yeah, definitely Michael Nunn, Rayshawn. No doubt about it. Let me see. Great Drake, Gerald McClellan versus Gennady Golovkin. Yeah, that. I'll tell you one thing. When I did a stylistic matchup between Golovkin and G-Man Gerald McClellan, I'll tell you right now, a prime Gerald McClellan would have knocked Golovkin out in the ring, would have hurt him badly. Okay, I can't see how Golovkin.
If because we don't know, even if, to your point, even if my guy's got like an ollie chin, he's getting the shit beat out of him. You know what I mean?
Oh,
even if he doesn't get knocked out, he's getting the crap beat out of him, and his corner might, you know what I mean? Abel might be like, no.
No, you take it to me. You take it to me in them right hands, man. No, I'm sorry. I gotta stop this fight. You take it to me in those right hands. All right, and them left hooks.
Yep.
I mean, Gerald.
I was just gonna say, I kept telling people, this whole Loeffler should have, when Oscar gave that ultimatum, right? That if they took the Saunders fight, that he wouldn't give them the Canelo fight.
Yeah.
They should never ever have capitulated. They never should have capitulated, because not only on the legacy front, in my opinion, but it led to inactivity. In fact, this whole, how many years now they've been going back and forth? 2, 3, it seems like.
Right. Yeah, it's been like 3 years now.
Yeah. Okay. These last 3 years, Golovkin's, look at Golovkin's activity. It's plummeted. You know.
Well, I think it's plummeted because he's been getting hit a lot, man. Before the Kell Brook fight.
I'm saying, but it's also been a function of jumping through Oscar's hoops. You see what I mean?
That too. It's a mixture of both. But Great Jake got a good point. The man took a lot of punishment as well as aged at the same time. So, actually, no. I'm sorry.
Trust me, the best thing for him would have been to stay active. I mean, even if he didn't keep fighting 3 and 4 times a year, I mean, it should at least 2 or 3.
Well, you know what? That's a good point. It's nothing wrong against activity, but as I want to point out again, he's been getting hit way too many times, even against lower tier opposition. Willie Monroe hit this guy a lot. Okay, even Dominic Wade hit him, but of course, Dominic Wade couldn't do anything to get his respect. Kell Brook hit this dude as hard as I've ever seen him get hit. A welterweight battered him up.
I don't disagree. My contention would just be this. I think Golovkin would have performed better against Canelo, even if he'd taken a couple fights in the in between time where he got hit some more, because he would have remained active. You know, I mean,
It is funny. Yeah, it was funny about that too. When me and Hatman and Mox and Librarian, when we all brought this up, this dude Taiwan goes after us. Well, not me particularly, but he went after Hatman and Librarian when they went after Golovkin for saying that he gets hit way too much. He calls it hate. So this is why I wanted to make this video and call out the hypocrisy why I had you on, because he can apply those standards to one particular fighter, but when we do the same thing to his fighter, he calls it hate. But when
well,
he does it,
but
he don't.
see, the guys like him piss me off also because they say they're Golovkin fans, and yet I have to hear just ridiculous shit like Mexican style. No, he's an Eastern European style fighter, and which I have no problem with. I love the variety of styles in boxing, and I've always
Absolutely.
said, Golovkin has been the best exponent of that style. You know what I mean, of this current time.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
just like
Yeah.
Lara's a great exponent of his style. And the thing about it, I was going to get on to the point of getting hit, right? The
Right.
thing that now, if they wanted to be reasonable, what they would say is, and this is what I think, when he wants to, Golovkin actually does have an underrated defense, but he just doesn't employ it. Against Jacobs, for example, he employed it, kept that high guard up. You know what I mean? Took a step back when the shots came in, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. You know,
Well,
uh,
he'll keep a high guard, but the problem is that he doesn't have any good reflexes. He's not elusive enough. He doesn't move his
no,
head, and this is why
yeah.
that's a
That's
what
the
that's a
Eastern
one.
European style defenses. It can be hard to tell sometimes because, like I said, they're trained to take that step back. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And they're trained to turn their head and pull it back. You know what I mean? Behind the high guard, and so it can
Right.
be tough. It can honestly be tough to tell even for me sometimes. Whether that's good, whether it's not even necessarily good. Just, whoever's fighting that style, it's hard to tell whether they're choosing to take that step back, or if they're getting pushed back.
Right. And this is why I don't understand it, is that his type of style, that swarming style, is not going. He's not going to last for another year or two. And I have to agree with Hatman on this one, based off the fact that he's been getting hit the last three fights, even before that.
Well, yeah,
So
he's again back to my criticisms of Tommy Boy. The the crappy resume has also led, in my opinion, it basically, we were talking about this on EJ's hangout, right after the fight, because we did commentary,
right.
blah blah blah, and yeah, we all agreed that his the opposition that Tommy, the crappy opposition, like we've always talked about, when you fight lower tier opposition, no matter how good you might be, it's going to erode your skills some. And
Exactly.
it's turned him into a headhunter.
It has, and he's a stiff target, like I've always said before. He's now a vulnerable target. So
Yeah,
let me go to the
and one
well.
last thing before you go. The one thing also I've noticed, and this one I don't know, I have a sneaking suspicion it has more to do with age. He doesn't shift and slide his feet, the way he used to.
Right, absolutely.
Like if you watch Willie Monroe, when he cornered him up, he did that Eastern European, thing, sort of like Kovalev, where they,
right.
although Golovkin won't really throw punches from southpaw, but he would shift to southpaw for the purposes of cutting the ring. Also,
Yeah.
Hagler used to do the same thing. He'd shift. He did
Uh,
that. Me and D Style just watch him do that to Hearns. Shift stances to help him cut the ring. But yeah, it seems to
yeah,
have lost
exactly.
that, smoothness. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, you make a good point about that. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that maybe from a mental standpoint, he's not quite as motivated now that he stepped up in competition to use these fundamentals, because he realizes it's getting much harder. That the fact that, or maybe he's forgetting to use these fundamentals because he's fighting top tier opposition now. He's not able to get his way like he did against lower tier opposition. So
Yeah,
that could be another factor.
you know what? Now that you mentioned it, I feel like arguably as far back as the Brook fight, he seems to have gotten caught up in this, feeling of a need to make some kind of point.
Right, exactly. And
To the point,
he
yeah,
fought reckless.
yep,
He fought
exactly.
recklessly that. even though he had got the win, but he fought recklessly. And I pointed this out, of course, the guy in Taiwan didn't like when we criticized him for that, and so did many others. He did fight recklessly. It was well evident. He was sloppy in there. But it is what it is. Let me go back to the comments section here. Joho said, hey, man, you did the right thing for kicking that guy out. Yeah, man. I had to. I tolerated him until he started disrespecting Mr. Doc. I was like, no, I'm not having that. I'm kicking your ass out. If you want to talk about boxing, you want people to respect you, you don't be throwing out insults like that. Okay? Let me see. Rashawn Hudson said Jake LaMotta RIP. Yeah, the Raging Bull, man. God rest his soul. I've been meant to do a video on that.
Yeah.
I mean, Jake LaMotta, man, you can't question about his record. He fought a lot of who's who's. Jake LaMotta is one of those other guys you could say, one of those other, those American, the Caucasian American fighters who actually fought Black Murderers Row members. He fought Homer Williams. He beat him. He fought Burt Liddell, beat him. He didn't beat Lloyd Marshall, though, but you got to give him credit for taking on those type of challenges. While fighting Robinson, he beat him. He gave Robinson his first loss of his career. Of course, he entered 5 more fights with him. He's fought a lot of who's who's, man, and he's beat a lot of them, So, much respect to Jake LaMotta, man. God rest his soul. And
he was one of those, well, especially back then, relatively rare guys like Benny Leonard, for instance, that actually viewed the sport as a sport. I like exactly. That librarian told me, about Benny Leonard. When they asked him, well, why are you fighting these, colored fighters? He's just like, this is a fucking sport. There's no place for that crap here.
Right, exactly. Like I said, he's fought all pretty much all the best, man. There's just nothing, you can't really criticize LaMotta for what he's done. He had a very limited style too. We go back to the swarming style technique. He's one of the few fighters who lasted for longevity with the swarming style of fighting. He didn't have technique. He didn't really have skill, but he had an incredible chin. So obviously that got him through fights. And the fact is that
a bit like James Kirkland with a better chin.
Yeah, a lot better chin. But styles make fights. But again, it's not always about who has a better style. It's about what you've accomplished. And he accomplished so much with a limited style of fighting, with a limited skill.
That's the thing. Yep. See, it's just like I don't. Yep. Some of these fans, you know what I mean? It's like I like I have to. I'll use I use a football analogy, right? Okay. Who was better? Who's better, RG3 or Joe Montana? All right. We know which one's the better athlete, right? Obviously.
Right.
But yes. But who's accomplished more with with their style or whatever you want to call it,
With their ability, with their limited ability. That's of course that's Joe Montana. Kind of like Larry Bird from the NBA.
Montana, funny you mentioned his name too. Montana was actually an underrated athlete. He was actually fairly mobile. He just wasn't as mobile as a Steve Young or an RG3.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's like it's not always about having the better ability. It's about, can that better ability result in natural ability? You know what I mean? I can give you an example like Larry Bird in the NBA. Larry Bird was not the most athletic guy. He was not the fastest guy. He was not the fastest guy on the court. But he was a smart player. He used his limited ability to his advantage. And Larry Bird turned out to be a very great player. Okay? I can say, like,
he seemed to, maximize what gifts he did have. Court vision. He underrated handle, in my opinion. I mean, you know what I mean. He, especially in his prime when he was young.
Right.
He'd style on guys. It was like, what? Back before his back and stuff. I mean, the dude could run the fast break, pass behind his back, all this stuff. So, I mean, he had a degree of athleticism, but he maximized that to make up for, the lack of leaping ability, maybe not being, the most explosive, etc. Like you say.
Right, exactly. So Larry Bird, it's like you say, Keon Clark. I mean, I'm gonna bring up Keon Clark, for example. I know people don't really know who he was. He played for the Toronto Raptors. You know Keon Clark, okay?
Yeah, better
very athletic.
Yeah, better athlete than Larry Bird. Yeah.
Very better. He was so athletic. He was so gifted, but obviously he never lived up to expectations because obviously there's many reasons why.
Tim Thomas would be another example.
Yeah, he's another example too. But were those players greater than Larry Bird? Absolutely not. They were not greater than Larry Bird. So it's not always about who has a better skill, who has a better ability. It's about what you can do with those skills and what you can accomplish with those skills. You know. So Jake LaMotta definitely.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like we were talking about the other day. You know, even guys who, at least in my opinion, have relatively the same level of skill, like say Terrence Crawford and Rancis Barthélemy. Barthélemy doesn't have Crawford's ability to take those skills up, you know, in weight, you know, and and remain as effective. You know what I mean? Even though I think, especially at lightweight, I think it would have been a good fight between the two of them. Rancis just he just doesn't translate to the higher weights the way Crawford does.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a very good point. So yeah, we'll go back to the comment section here. Jake LaMotta, you know, for a man that took a lot of punishment in his career, he did age very well. Yeah, he did. He lived to his 90s. I mean, usually with guys who took so much punishment.
I gotta be honest. Yeah, I gotta be honest. This was one of those, you know, ones where I was like, oh wow, he was still alive.
Yeah, those people who didn't know he was still alive. Not funny.
Yeah, 96. Who would have thought he'd like live to 96? Yeah.
Yeah, that's 95 technically, but still, it's like wow. People still thought he was dead until they announced that he died a couple days ago. So a few days ago. Yeah, you know, good point.
Well, I mean, I didn't know one way or the other. I hadn't thought about it, but if somebody had just, you know, randomly posed the question, you know, hey, you know, don't look, tell me right now, do you think Jake LaMotta's alive? I would have been like, probably not.
Yeah, exactly. But he lived a quiet life. You know, during the later years of his life, he lived very quietly. So that's why he didn't really make any public appearances. So you would get the impression that maybe, okay, you know, maybe he's not around.
Like I said, it wasn't thought of. You know what I mean? He got forgotten.
Right.
You know, another one is George Chuvalo. Is he still alive? Because holy crap! Yeah, that guy is amazing. He's amazing. His face is fairly clean. You know, he can talk clearly, at least in all, you know, everything I've seen. You know, articulates his, you know,
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that because the guy took a lot of punishment in his career. A lot.
His defense was his face.
Exactly. And the guy still has his health faculties. He can still. There's like no signs of speech slur, and he looks great, like you said. The guy looks well. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I like how Beats goes. Yeah, he looks like he could give any one of us a good beating still.
George Chuvalo, yeah, he is still alive. Great Drake. We know that. We was talking about that now. Joe Ho said that I remember an interview with Jake LaMotta did a couple years ago when they asked him about Floyd Mayweather. He didn't know who he was. Hey, I remember that too, man. I'm sure that Floyd didn't take that very kindly. Just like he didn't take it very well when he went over to Brixton in London and Brixton, you know, London, which I got family living in Brixton, by the way. He had he was at a barber shop and I think the lady was Jamaican. She was Caribbean. She didn't know who Floyd Mayweather was, a young lady. She didn't know who he was, and Floyd just cussed her out. He snapped at her because she didn't know who he was. I'm like, dude, come on. And she said to him, like, look, I don't watch boxing like that. All right. I know who Mike Tyson is. I mean, she was pretty much said, if you're not inciting fighting, I know who you
Floyd, that was the wrong name to say to Floyd.
And Mike Tyson, she's like, I know Mike Tyson, but I didn't know who you are. She's like, look, there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't know who you are. But anyway, let me get back to the comment section here. It says here, Jake LaMotta never got knocked down or knocked out or knocked down. Well, I mean, he got stopped on his feet 4 times. Particularly in that time, you know, we call this the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in that 6th Ray Robinson fight where he took a ferocious beating. I mean, that was sickening. I just didn't understand why the referee didn't stop that fight sooner. I think that fight should have been stopped around the 8th or 9th round when he was taking a beating. They let him go to the 13 rounds, and I think the referee finally stopped the fight because he felt that LaMotta.
if you think the '70s refs were loose, compared to today, if you go back to the black and white, TV or film era, yeah, the refs are just like, holy crap, really, like those Graziano Giardello fights, I think it was, or no, Graziano Zale.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
a
well, you know
brutal
what though?
knockout.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is though? Yeah, LaMotta did get knocked down. It was against Danny Nardico, so yeah. Ben
I think it's
Worsley.
Chuvalo that's never been knocked down. I think
No,
Chuvalo managed to go without
yeah,
being knocked
yeah,
down.
yeah. He never been knocked down from my recollection, but he's been stopped though. Ben
Yeah,
Worsley,
got
what's
stopped
going
on
on?
his feet.
Right, Ben Worsley, what's going on, man? Yeah, I just pointed out Danny Nardico. Yeah, I just said that. He was knocked down by Danny Nardico. But let me see. What else we got here? Yeah, that's about it. But I've been wanting to address this dude, this Taiwan. I'm gonna go through these points, and I wanted to get your take on it. Now,
All
he
right.
also said, the guy in Taiwan. He also said that. Let me see what here. Ward fought majority of his fights in a Rocco Sacco style of fighting. Is that true or false?
What? Oh my god! This is why when Librarian tries to leak me his videos, I just can't. I can't do it. I
Yeah.
can't do it. Did I
I
just?
mean,
Did he literally? So he called Ward a Rock'em Sock'em fighter? Didn't he
he just
call?
said he said that.
Isn't he one of the
Yeah.
guys that's called Ward boring?
Yes, that's what he said. Yeah, you see the contradiction there?
My brain. I mean, that just like cost me an IQ point. How
Yeah,
is a Rock'em Sock'em fighter boring?
exactly. Isn't that the style that you prefer? I mean, Golovkin is a
Yeah,
Rock of Soccer style fighter, but yet you call Ward a Rock of
yeah.
Soccer style fighter, and yet you say he's boring at the same time. How does that make any sense? But basically,
It
he's saying
doesn't.
that when Ward uses his head, he uses his elbows, he's punching guys in the groin. He's a dirty fighter. He said that Ward done that in his whole career. I was like, really, in his whole career? Other than the Miguel Kessler fight, which had some controversy, other than the Edwin Rodriguez,
I'd say he's a roughhouse fighter. He's always been a
yeah, he was
roughhouse fighter to me, but that don't mean no.
right.
That's a long standing, just like Cuban style, just like Mexican quote unquote style, just like Rock'em Sock'em Robot. You know what I mean? All these. That's just another style that has a long history.
Right. Many
You know.
fighters from the past fought in the rough house style way of fighting. Many fighters have done it. But people like him act like Ward is the only guy that does it, which is illegal. I mean, get the fuck out of here. When Mandana was
Well,
roughhousing,
since
Marcos
he's Mr.
Mandana did it.
Historian now. Yeah, oh yeah,
Right.
that's a good one too. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, since he's Mr. Historian now, all of a sudden he should go learn about Fritzy's image. Maybe
Thank
he'll
you. I was gonna
finally
bring up
get the
50.
point.
Yeah. Well, he should look up Mysterious Billy Smith. If you want to talk about dirty, that guy had no regard for the rules. But yet he's in the Hall of Fame. That guy got more losses than wins. The reason why he's in the Hall of Fame, because he got wins over Barbados Joe Wilcott and Kid Levine. So how does that I mean, you want to talk about guys who are dirty. That guy was notorious. He fucking bit a guy in the ring and got disqualified. Didn't give a damn. Okay?
Yep. And if he
So
wants to go, and if he's worried about low blows and headbutts and elbows, he better I better hear from you or Librarian that he's really come down hard on Joe Frazier.
exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, here's the whole point. This is a combative sport. Do we all want fighters to fight within the rules? Absolutely. But we do understand that there are going to be some rough house tactics
Actually, Dan.
involved.
I was just actually Dan. I got to be honest. I want there to be Sean Porters and Roberto Durans and Fritzy Ziviches and Orlando Salitos. I don't want those
Hey,
guys to disappear. That is to me a long-standing traditional style of the sport. The clever roughhouse fighter. Like I said, it cracks me. I laugh when I'm watching Salito, and you could just tell he's not looking, but he knows right where that ref is, and where the blind spot is, so he can slot in them hip punches and shit.
exactly. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, look, here's the thing.
There's a craft to it. There is a craft to it. Because
There is.
Trust me,
You're right. It
even
is
back in the day, you don't just go in there elbowing and headbutting and not get DQ'd. You know what I mean? You
right.
had
Exactly.
to have some fucking craft and style to what you're doing, even if you were a roughhouse fighter, or else you weren't going to have a
Exactly.
career.
Exactly. But here's the thing I would say though. It does, to your point, it does make the fight more interesting, and people like that. But if a fighter feels that he's being done dirty by his opponent, what does he do? He takes matters to his own hands. Don't look for the referee for help. The referee's not going to bail you out all the time. You got to take care of that on your own. That's what the quarter tells you. No, you take matters in your own hands. I mean,
Yep.
that's what Razor
And,
Ramon did to Mike Tyson.
and here's one for you. Here's one for you that I recently really seemed to piss off. Well, I'll just say a certain demographic of fans. Okay,
Yeah.
is that because they were people bitching and complaining about Sean Porter, another roughhouse fighter, because they were complaining after the Berto fight, right? And I said, okay, so most of these same people complained about fought against Porter.
Right.
Right.
It's funny though. Yeah,
so,
right.
If you're a manager, if you're a manager, so I was like, I had to put it to these guys. Sorry, but because they argue, they hated it because I had that fight close. Although Porter, I thought won.
Right.
Right. I wasn't as I wasn't as outraged as those certain demographic of people were by that fight, because look how Berto got done. That's what happens to you if you don't do what Broner did to a guy like Sean Porter.
Right.
Now, if you want to say it was excessive, that's a separate issue. You know what I mean? But look how Broner looked after the fight with Porter, and look how Berto looked. You tell me which guy you'd rather be. Which guy would you rather be managing? You know what I mean?
Right.
Again, it's part of the game. It's part of the game for a reason.
Right, exactly. Or you know what? Ben Worsley, shout out to him. He said, I wonder how many fans will now react to how Fitzy Civic fought. Good point. How many people react to Sandy Sadler? Let's not forget about Sandy Sadler. He was a notorious dirty fighter. Notorious.
Well, you know what? I'll just be blunt about it. That same demographic I was just talking about, I bet you they'd love Fritzy. They might not say, they might deny it. Oh yeah, for sure. They might deny it, but if we went in the time machine and they didn't, know any better, they'd love Fritzy. Yeah. They'd love Fritzy.
I would say this.
But Sandy Sadler, no. He'd be dirty and yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. This is if they don't like, they call Ward a dirty fighter, then they should do some research on Sandy's Fitzy Civic, because he never gets brought up as being a dirty fighter. As you bring it up in the library, myself bring it up about him. Okay, and another guy I want to talk about is
we don't call it dirty. We don't call it dirty. Yeah. We call it roughhouse.
We call it roughhouse and being very strategic and very clever. Being very you apply technique with it, as you want to call it. And Great Drake said, look, this is a pro boxing, it's a tough sport. If pansies want to watch a clean fight, they need to go watch some karate or some shit. Hey, good point. Great Drake also said that there's no such thing as a clean fight, quoting Bernard Hopkins. Well, that's the truth. Yeah, that's Bianco. That's absolutely true. There's no such thing. Mike Tyson never fought a clean fight. So come on. I mean, there's times that Mike Tyson fought dirty, but we don't penalize Tyson for that, right? Ali was rabbit punching guys in the back of the head for the most part of his career, but we don't penalize Ali for that.
I don't remember a rabbit punching, but I definitely remember him holding behind the neck and getting a lot of people hated that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And I was going to say, that was part of his thing when people were referring to the rabbit punching. So, but the thing is, not every great fighter is going to have some bit of roughhouse tactics, as you want to call dirty by some other people's standards. But we don't define their careers based off of that. We define what they've gone through and the challenges they got through in the ring and how they will overcome it. That's what we look at the end of the day.
Yep. And to be fair, to be fair, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, some of these people are, I think a lot of them, in fact, are what I would consider kids. Okay. So they don't remember a time when, for instance, that forearm of Floyd Mayweather's they complain so much about.
Right.
That used to be just a fucking standard technique thing that they taught you.
Exactly. Just try to get jostle for position.
Yeah,
That's what they.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like especially the guys I love, the heavyweights I love from the '70s, Jimmy Ellis, Jimmy Young, Muhammad Ali, all those outboxer stylists. They all did that. Joe Bugner. They all did that thing to get that.
Exactly.
Create that separation without getting caught on the exit.
Right. George Foreman was known for punching and pushing guys to create his distance, which some people didn't like when George Foreman was doing that. So I mean, this is the thing too, man. It's just like people just don't know what dirty fighting is. These are the same people like him, the guy and the cop who now is a historian all of a sudden, boxing historian. He didn't complain when Floyd Mayweather was getting punched in the groin, punched in the arm by Marcos Maidana, get put in an arm lock. He didn't complain about that. You know what people like him said? He said that Floyd shouldn't be complaining. He needs to fight through that. But yet, they said Andre Ward's a dirty fighter. You see where I'm going with this?
Oh, I know. Sometimes it's so predictable. You just have to laugh. You just have to.
It is predictable. It's like when he made that video about me, I'm laughing at him. It's like, you are being a fucking hypocrite, all right? You are going after Andre Ward for the same, going for Andre Ward for the standards that you refuse to go after the fighters that you look up to, that I just named in this video earlier on, all right? And another thing he keeps telling this lie about is that Andre Ward trained Jad Dawson. How many times we got to go through this? He did not train Jad Dawson. Jad Dawson was the one who...
Dawson drained himself.
Exactly. Jad Dawson was the guy who went out there, called out Andre Ward. Andre Ward was not on Chad Dawson was not on Andre Ward's radar, okay? Chad Dawson called him out after the Hopkins fight, the second fight, said that I will go down to 168 to fight this dude. That's what he did. He drained himself for that. But Ward gets blamed for that. He doesn't want to give Ward credit for that. And you know why he's being a hypocrite about that as well? Is because Pacquiao had more than a handful of fights at catchweights, championship fights at catchweight. But he gives Pacquiao full credit for those fights at catchweights, particularly at one particular fight against Miguel Cotto, where Cotto not only had to agree to a catchweight, but he had to agree to a same-day weigh-in.
I always that one always boggled my mind. I'm like, oh, wait. So we can have same-day weigh-ins if we ask for them? I didn't know that.
Right, so Pacquiao got it against Cotto, but guess what? Pacquiao gets full credit for beating Cotto. He gives Pacquiao credit for that. So I asked him this before. Why do you give Pacquiao credit for his catchweight wins, but they criticize Ward for fighting to trade Chad Dawson, when Chad Dawson elected to do it on his own when he called out Andre Ward? When he said himself, I'll go down to the weight.
You know what? That's the angle Broner should have played with Porter. He should have played the same day weigh-in angle.
Well, he tried to get a rehydration clause.
I know. But I think same day weigh-in would have been a more effective tactic. I'm just
it would have benefited what's his name, Broner, but obviously nobody's gonna agree to same day weigh-in these days.
But I'm saying no. But I'm saying imagine what they would have done if Broner had tried playing a same day weigh-in on Porter. They would have flipped out.
Right, exactly. But exactly, man. But like I said, that's a good point. Hey, what's up, NBT? What's up, man? What's up, NBT Boxing?
Hey, NBT, what's up, man?
Hey, yeah, man. Hey, yeah, we're doing good, man. I'm just going after this guy who thinks he's a boxing historian, man. He wants to.
Someone needs to ask him. Okay, since he's so worried about low blows and dirty fighting and all that, right? Ask him. Somebody needs to just tell him, go research and find out why Jimmy Ellis said to Joe Frazier during their weigh-in, because it was same-day weigh-ins back then, right? Say, of course, it's back talking to him. Well, why did he say to Joe Frazier, if you butt me, I'll taking you out early?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would he say something like that? Some people might speculate and say because Joe had a reputation, but I'll leave that for this newly this guy with this newly found love of history to go find out for himself.
Right, exactly. I mean, the guy, he's just an all around hypocrite. Okay, I stopped addressing him for over a month, but then he had to bring me up, and in his video, I was like, okay, you know what? Don't do that.
Crazy. Yeah, he brought me up. I was like, yeah. My brain had to play the audio for me, of course. Yeah, I couldn't believe what I heard. I'm like listening, it's played like a segment or whatever, and it was. So we were listening to him listen to me in Librarian, which was also kind of weird.
Well,
so,
first of all, yeah, I was going to say, go ahead, man.
At some point, he's all, "Who's this Mr. Doc?" Like I'm, his nemesis or something, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, all I could say was, through Librarian is, or because I know he watches Librarian's videos. It's like, no, dude, I am completely indifferent. I have no anger or emotion or any kind towards it. I just don't care. I don't, and I've heard enough third hand and second hand of your craziness that I'm not just, what I mean? I'm just not even going to bother because I just want the time back if I did.
Well,
that shit.
Firstly, obviously
he got mad. He got mad at the fact that I just don't care. That I don't have malice towards him. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, he went after one of the guys, one of the video uploaders, K-By Boxing too, about that too. So it's like when you ignore the dude in some type of way, he takes it very personal, like a little child. So he goes on a rant, makes video responses. I mean, dude's 50 years old, and he's got teaching credentials. I can't understand how he become an educator. I don't need to go. I have to go that route sometimes, but
I know that's it's like a total 2-year-old, oh, you're ignoring me thing. And I just think, wow, it's that easy, dude.
I mean,
it's like, am I the only one that grew up with the saying, if you don't want him to get your goat, don't show him where it's hid?
Right, exactly. But all I gotta say is that when he said that Tony Zill fought Sugar Ray Robinson, and the fact that he said Gennady Golovkin is better than Tony Zill, he's lost all type of credibility. That's it. You done. I'm not taking you seriously anymore.
Oh my God.
Well, he also said too. I forgot to mention. He also said that Gennady Golovkin is better than Rocky Graziano. Okay, tell me what win is better than Tony Zill. That Golovkin is beat. Tell me what win that he's beat. That Golovkin is beat. That's better than Tony Zill.
Well, the Daniel Gill knockout kind of looked like that win. I couldn't finish.
Well, tell me what top 10 fighter that Golovkin has beat that was better than Sonny Horn. Tell me who. Yeah, exactly. He won't say it. How about Marty Servo?
You can't.
He can't. Okay, so don't go there, bro. Don't go there. Okay, so please. Golovkin's best fight was against a guy a week ago, and he didn't win. So don't sit there and say that. You can say that. Well, Golovkin's got more titles. Go ahead.
You could argue strictly skill wise, not accomplishments or resume, obviously, but skill wise, you could make an argument for Jacobs for best opponent.
Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. If he's talking about skill, which I doubt he was doing, if he's talking about skill, I can understand. But if you're talking about accomplishments, you are way off. You are way off. The Tony Zill thing
crushes my guys. Crushes them.
Oh yeah, Canelo resume is way better. Yeah, way better than Golovkin's. These are I'm not sure he said it, but I know the Triple G fans were saying the same. They were saying that Golovkin's resume was better than Canelo's.
This is what they were saying. God,
you guys
I know. Dude, they were saying that on that Facebook group I got banned from. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, I didn't hear about that. Tell me about that.
After the Ward Kovalev rematch, I got the other Facebook group I used to moderate for, besides Librarians. Yeah, I got banned from it because the guy that ran it, he just didn't like the fact that I didn't just accept his assertions that was the dirtiest fight ever, and
Dirtiest
Most,
fight ever. Oh, please.
you know,
Really
I
think,
mean,
do
and
these,
the low blows thing, and you know me. I was just like,
yeah.
dude, Joe Frazier, Joe Frazier, like landed like 10 times as many, way more blatant dick punches on Ali in any number of their fights. You know?
Exactly. Look at Sandy Sadler and Willie Pep in their fourth fight. You saw what Sandy Sadler did to Willie Pep was, hitting him in the back of the head, throwing him across the ring. You want to talk about dirty fighting? Look at that. I mean, come
Oh,
on,
was
dude.
it? Who was it that I think it was? Oh crap. I've lost it. I lost the thought. What's his name? Damn it! That drew the color line. He
You
knocked some
talking?
guy. Yeah, I think he's also the same guy. I can't remember who he fought, but he was losing. But so he hit the guy like low a couple times, and then when he looked at the ref, he knocked him out. My brain was telling me about it. Beatson told me about it too.
Was it Damn, I think you're talking about this guy. Was it Harry Greb? No, it wasn't Harry Greb. I know Harry
No,
Greb fought a dirty
no,
fight.
not that far back. Not that far back, and I'm pretty sure it was a
Oh,
heavyweight.
oh, it was a heavyweight. It was like modern times, like in the
Yeah.
'60s or '70s.
No. Yeah, it was back to the guy I can't remember that Tyson idolized. The name I know the name. I'm just not able to dig
Oh,
it up at the second. It's like super. Now
Tyson.
you can't.
Let me
The
see.
guy that
There was
Tyson idolized had the same haircut and everything. I think it was either him or whoever came after him
well, I mean,
that did
Tyson
it.
highlights Jack Dempsey a lot. He highlights Jack Dempsey.
Yeah,
So,
Dempsey. Yeah, it was either
yeah,
Dempsey. I
Jack
think it was
Dempsey.
Dempsey. I think it was Dempsey did it. It was either
Well,
him or the guy that took the title off Dempsey that did it to somebody. But yeah, just all kinds. The point is, I mean, are my favorite, everyone's favorite. Duran winning a title off Ken Buchanan by crushing one of his
oh
testicles.
man, yeah,
You
Kid
know,
Buchanan never forgave Durant for that. Yeah, he never forgave
he
him for
could.
that.
No, he couldn't because I love his line. Every time
Yeah,
I
they
take
want to talk about
this,
they
every
want to
time
talk
I
about
take
dick.
this, I'm reminded of Roberto Duran.
And you know what's funny about that? Roberto Duran his career was never defined on that, right? But yeah, his first title win was on a dick punch. Did anybody criticize Duran for that? No. Maybe early
No,
that
nobody
time,
gave a
yeah.
shit.
Nobody cares now.
It was flagrant. I mean, it was clear as day. It wasn't like some it might have been a dick punch. You know what I mean? Like the
Right.
Ward thing. I thought they were body shots, and I thought
I never
Kovalev
body
was.
shots.
Yep, and Kovalev I think was getting stopped in a matter of seconds, anyways. So, or he was going
Right.
out the ring.
Exactly.
You know,
Well,
but
he
anyways,
quit on it.
all of that basically, to keep it short, is what it just took me from being a moderator to be banned off the Facebook group. The guy
Right.
was so salty because I had been trolling because I'd made it clear I couldn't wait for that fight. Because if Ward won, I was going to just enjoy watching the fanboys' heads explode.
Right, exactly.
And
I mean,
he got so salty, he couldn't deal with it. And it's like I never had a wrong word with the guy either. You know, never at all. We talked a lot, not like like this, but text or whatever on Facebook. So
right.
I'd be not a friend, but you know what I mean. We never. Like I said, he made me a moderator. That one fight, that one night, bam.
Well, I mean, some people just like,
So,
I don't know, man. I gotta say one thing. I don't know what it is about Andre Ward that's got to these guys psychologically, man. I don't know what it is. I mean, Andre Ward, is he a diva? Absolutely. There's been many divas in our time, and it goes way back, long before that. Okay, Andre Ward is one of the few non-controversial fighters I've ever witnessed. Okay, outside the ring, he does the right things.
yeah,
He's a family man.
clean life.
He gives back to his community. He takes pride in what he does in his community. He's a dedicated Christian. So what is it to hate about him? Yes, you may not like the way he fights. You may not like the fact that he's a diva, but there's many fighters who are worse than him. But yet you guys don't
Well,
criticize those fighters. So
and
why?
again, it's that emotional investment thing I always talk about, Dan.
Right.
That I also
It's a
can't really relate to. Yeah, I don't get why they get so fucking attacked. Like either way, like this guy was just he still is just attached to hatred of Andre Ward, like almost to the level of Low Place's hatred. I mean, you know, he just hated the guy. And I would tell him,
Well, Plays.
I'd tease this other guy. I'd be like, you know, what the hell, man? Did Andre Ward, you know, punch your mom or something? What the heck?
I know, exactly.
It's like these guys have personally done something to them, you know. And it's like you've probably never even met the guy. What the hell?
I don't get it either, man. I can understand if it was a controversial fighter like Floyd Mayweather. That I can understand where people have gripes with. But Andre Ward's not even on that level. He's not even on that personality level of Floyd Mayweather.
But I mean, no. I mean, dude, these guys go so over the top. It's like, don't you have like people, you know, that are in your real life and like you actually encounter that you know you're more concerned about than you know some fighter. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, you don't have somebody, you know what I mean, that more productive to direct your anger and frustration towards than you know. I don't know. It's weird to me. It's just that's a weird one.
It's weird, man. But anyhow, yeah, I think I addressed all the points I made about this guy, man. You know, it's like he went after Ward the way he did. He called him a dirty fighter, but yet he won't criticize Klitschko for being a dirty fighter. You know why Klitschko's a dirty fighter to his standard? Because Klitschko was a guy who punched, grabbed, leaned on you, threw you across the ring like he did Alexander Povetkin to tire you out so that he could take you out when you had no more energy left to compete. That's what he did. But he doesn't criticize Klitschko for his illegal tactics, headlocking guys, you know, put him in vice grips and shit like that. So, like I said,
they try to compare it. Yeah, and I've had Dan. They try to compare it to like, oh well, Foreman and Ali held. No.
Right.
yes, they did. But watch how they did it and what they usually did when they did it.
Yeah.
You
right,
know,
absolutely.
like even Foreman was actually, I love that. It's like one of my favorite Lee Wiley vids is the one he did about Foreman, master of manipulation, and it showed all of Foreman's inside tricks, moving guys around, pivoting when they came in. You know,
right?
I mean, very. Yeah. Another one. Yeah, me and D-Style were just we did a live scoring of Duran Hagler. I mean, the infighting in that is beautiful, Dan. Beautiful to behold.
Yeah, actually, I watched that fight the other day, man. I was like, man, that was a beautiful inside fight. I mean, those guys, you know, back then, those people thought that fight was not impressive when people said it. And I'm like, really? I look at it today, that was a damn good fight.
It gets like me, like me and D-Style talked about on the Hangout that we did on it. Yeah, just last night. It's for whatever reason that fight gets lost in the shuffle of Hagler Hearns, Duran Leonard Hearns. Right. You know, it's kind of like how Benitez gets lost, you know, in the shuffle amongst those guys. Even though to me, he, you know, I feel like he belongs in that conversation because
I think he does.
You know,
because he beat Durant. So just like Durant beat Leonard, Leonard beat all three of those guys. Hagler
got a split decision against Hearns, or lost. I mean, only by split decision to Hearns.
Right, exactly.
Big fight.
What are you talking about? Benitez. Yeah, Benitez. Yeah, but that was a unified for the unified light middleweight title. Yeah, 154.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, Benitez fought these guys too. You know, lost to Leonard, beat Duran, like you say. Tough fight with Hearns. I think the only one he didn't. Yeah, he didn't fight Hagler. You know.
Yeah, he didn't fight Hagler. Yeah, that's the only guy he didn't fight. But you know,
and the other thing people forget is that the Hagler Duran fight. You know, the official judges' cards were one was 2 points and the other two were 1 point.
Right, it was a very close fight. Very close.
Yeah.
Very close fight, and you know, it is, man. We can appreciate those fights back then, but all I gotta say is that I thought I'd go ahead and I did address all the points that this so-called historian made in this video. All right. So one thing I am
rambling on, man.
That's all good, man. It's all good, man. It's always good to have you on. But the thing is that if he doesn't want to talk about historynomics as he claimed, don't bring up history so that way I can come back and meet a librarian and Mr. Doc can come back and get you, okay? Especially when you went out and said that Tony Zell was not better than Gennady Golovkin. That right there really got to me. Dude.
And if he doesn't want to have to listen to us laughing at him, okay, at his expense, yeah, don't say stupid shit. I mean,
that is one of the most stupidest things I ever heard, man. But before I close this out, let me go ahead and go into the comment section real quickly. Let me see. MBT said that Broner did want a rehydration clause. It wasn't a contract, but on the week they scratched it because of Broner himself. Yeah, obviously because of Broner's antics, they took it out. The dude,
yeah,
he's
that's what
talking
I'm
about.
saying. That's exactly what I was saying when I said he should have gone the. Yeah, I was kind of joking, but because of how Pacquiao got a same day weigh in. Well, that's what Broner should. I didn't know we could do that. That's what Broner should have done. He should have gone forget because Broner can't make weight. I mean, he can't count on himself to make weight like that on a catch weight. That's what happened. There is he couldn't make a catch weight himself. Funnily enough,
Right, exactly.
So he should have simplified and just said, let's do same day weigh in.
Yeah,
like
and it's true. MBT Boxes said that Sean Newton isn't even allowed on anyone's hangout, so he plays on people's videos on his channel and pretends he's on their hangouts, which is true. He's been banned on a lot of hangouts. I banned his ass from our fucking hangout. He's banned on everybody's hangouts. Yeah, well, that's what he gets. He deserves. Yeah. Let me see.
Strictly on the strength of secondhand, like I said, accounts of that moron. I preemptively banned him on my channel. I just didn't want to have to look at any of his fucking comments by chance.
Well, he is a lonely guy. He's a lonely, like Great Drake said. Look, Sean's videos are all only interaction he gets from other people. That's all. His whole channel platform is on that, criticizing people's opinions. While he doesn't like when people criticize his opinions, he built his whole platform on it. And yet he uses racial epithets to get his point across, which proves he's a fucking bigot. He's a racist bigot. He doesn't deny it to some degree. He shows some signs of it. So, he's going to live a lonely life over there.
He certainly has no problem fucking, commenting in his comment sections with definite racist bigots.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He claims he's not, but yeah, he allows those people to say, preposterous things about African Americans. So, he's a hypocrite. So I don't need to say any more about the guy. I'm done. I debunked every goddamn stupid ass point that he made in response towards me. All right, this is a guy who refused to debate me on Leonard versus Ezra Charles. Okay, because he got mad when I said Ezra Charles is way better than Leonard. I said, okay. I said, if you believe that, debate me on it. He turned it down. He turned it down like a little bitch. I was like, okay, you said that Leonard has more better wins than Ezra Charles. Tell me, dude, who did Ezra Charles beat?
He beat Joe Louis. He beat Joe Louis.
Well, you know what's funny about that? You know what's funny about that? When me and Library questioned him about that on our hangout when we had him on his channel, on the Library channel, we asked him, who did Ezra Charles beat? He couldn't even answer the question. I was like,
or Robinson. Yeah, I remember that. The one thing I will always give that guy credit for is that you can say what we want about him. He stood in there for 3.5 hours and taking that beating.
Oh yeah, I gave him credit for that. I gave him credit for that, but he had, he got butthurt and upset.
Oh yeah, salty.
Yeah, he was salty about it. He got mad. He came back at the meeting of the librarian. He was trolling us, saying that, well, you guys double teamed on me. That's not fair. I'm like, really? You called us out. You said that you wouldn't mind getting on
it. He's Chad Dawson. He was Chad Dawson, man. It was.
He said that we put words in his mouth. We comment on things that he didn't say. Well, bro, you did say that you had no problem going on with me in the library at the same time. All we did was take your word on it. And you came on there, and you hang in there like we give you credit for it. And y'all couldn't answer simple questions. We weren't beating you up in a bad way. You said you knew history. This is coming from you, a guy that's 50 years old who claimed he knew more about the sport because he's older. He's watched it longer than me. Okay, fine. But have you studied the sport longer than me? Then I have. No, you haven't, because if you did, you would have known that Ezra Charles beat Joe Louis. He couldn't even say that. Okay.
See, I got to be honest. I don't think he's even watched a lot of the fights that he claims or implies that he has, because
he has.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm pretty sure I've never, posed this question to him, but I posed it to a lot of people like him. That especially the Lomachenko strain of that demographic, the PP demographic, right? Well, they cry and moan. They cry and moan about the Eastern European fighters being held down and blah 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 blah, right? And opportunities and blah 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 blah, and it's like, what are you talking about? No, Valery Limbasov. Valery Limbasov, he's a guy they should be, if they're going to cry about Eastern European fighters that didn't get opportunities or whatever, right? They should be crying about those guys from back then that didn't get a chance to turn pro, like Valery Limbasov, who, in my opinion, was by far the toughest fight Sugar Ray Leonard had in his Olympic run.
Right, absolutely. I agree.
Bloodied Leonard's nose. It was southpaw, very, very talented fighter, but he absolutely never was going to have a chance to do anything. So where's all these clowns? How come they're not talking about them guys? Guys like him.
Yeah. What about Denis Shapovalov? Nobody's talking about him. Denis Shapovalov was a guy who's been, some people say, has been getting the short end of the stick when it came to championship fights. Once against Francis Bartholomew and the other against Robert Easter.
And even if you don't think, because I thought they were both close fights, especially the Easter one. That was super close. I'm pretty sure I had the Bartholomew. I've got it somewhere, but I don't want to dig it up. I'm pretty sure Bartholomew I had about 7-5-ish. But I thought, I thought Bartholomew closed it up strong. But the Shapovalov Easter, that could have gone. But the point here is, look who he's been fighting. Look at and look how he's been performing, even in defeat.
Right. And they don't even talk about Shapovalov.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I enjoy Shapovalov. Yeah, he's good. I mean, look what he did to that Jamal Herring when that was supposed to be Jamal Herring's coming up party.
Exactly. He knocked him out.
Yeah.
The thing is, when I watched that fight, it was a close fight between him and Robert Easter. It could have gone either way. I scored it for Shapovalov by 2 rounds. But the thing is that obviously we knew those scores was atrocious. They had, I think, 2 judges.
Oh God, those 120s! What the hell?
I mean, 2 judges had it 120, 108. Are you telling me that Denis Shapovalov didn't win 1 round in that fight? No more. I'm like, what in the world? When I heard those scores, I was like, oh no, here we go.
I got to channel the coach. How are you going to explain this, Ohio judges?
Exactly. But hey, man, I got to get off. It's getting late over here. Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on, man. It's always.
I appreciate it, man. You take care.
Good, man. So anyway, guys, that wraps it up. As far as the historian over there in Taiwan is concerned, before you make any comments, stupid comments like Tony Zell, it's not great. It's not better than Gennady Golovkin. Please don't talk about boxing history, especially if you don't know what it is. When you make stupid comments like that, that's all I gotta say, man.
I still don't give a shit about you, Newton. Peace. Later, bro.
Later, man. Later. Shout out to the commenters. MBT Boxing, great drink. Rashawn Hudson, shout out to you, man, and shout out to Ben Worsley for coming in briefly as well. Joe Host, it's always a pleasure. Who else? Oh yeah, I kicked that guy off. I'm not gonna mention him. Blood Boxing, I know Blood came in here in a momentarily, man. Shout out to Blood as always. So again, in 68 Rendezvous, and shout out to you, man. You came in here briefly. But again, man, like I said, I'm out. Don't be a hypocrite. Peace out, MBT, man. So don't be a hypocrite when when it comes to when you try to apply one standard to one fight like Andre Ward, but not apply it to the style fighters that you look up to. That's all I gotta say. I'm out.